Did you ever feel that wearing glasses kept you from attaining your full potential? Well, don't let it get you down. The history of our country's development is replete with examples of special individuals who had vision problems but overcame them with the use of prescription glasses and went on to play important roles in the shaping of our country. For instance, our first president, the father of our country, suffered from a rather high degree of hyperopia, or what some people call far-sightedness. His condition was caused by his eyes either being too short or too weak and not being able to focus the rays of light on the proper place on the back of the eye. This means that for many years he could see all right in the distance, but as he progressed in age, first his near vision and then his distance vision without glasses became blurry. President Washington paid $75 for his first pair of spectacles, which were imported from France. This was a rather high amount even for the times in which he lived. He eventually ordered a set of bifocals made to specifications designed by his old friend Benjamin Franklin. It has been said that Washington's need for the glasses provided for one of his most memorable quotes and possibly averted a disaster. At a point when things were not going particularly well in the early days of the war, Washington was asked to speak to his army and give them a pep talk. As he began to read from his prepared text, the print on the page began to get blurry. As he reached for his glasses, he ad-libbed, "Gentlemen, you will permit me to put on my spectacles, for I have not only grown gray, but almost blind in the services of my country." Well, the place went crazy, and a crisis was averted. Other presidents who had hyperopia or farsightedness were Abraham Lincoln, John Adams, Harry Truman, Jimmy Carter, and Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson had the distinction of being the only president to write his own prescriptions and design his own lenses and frames. At least 4 presidents, Andrew Jackson, John Adams, John Q. Adams, and James Madison, suffered from cataracts. Simply put, a cataract is a spot which appears on the lens inside the eye. These only present problems when they begin to interfere with the amount of light entering the eye. When this condition worsens to the point where these spots are blocking enough light to cause poor vision, the lens is surgically removed, and a strong corrective lens is then used in its place. Other presidents suffered from a vision abnormality known as myopia, or nearsightedness. This condition usually allows a person to see up close, but the distance vision is blurred. It is caused by the eye either being too long or too short, so that light is focused in front of the retina. Again, corrective lenses are needed to provide a focal point in the proper place. A sample of presidents who had this condition are Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, James Buchanan, and Gerald Ford. A couple of presidents had rather special vision problems and are worthy of note. Buchanan had a condition which could be easily diagnosed by any competent optometrist today. But in those days, it laid him open to much gossip and political criticism and intrigue. It seems that his problem resulted from a pronounced cocking or tilting of his head to one side while he read or listened. His political adversaries, trying to cast disfavor upon him, tried to take advantage of this. It seems that Buchanan's fiancée, a rather pretty young thing, had committed suicide in 1819. His critics maintained that he was so grief-stricken and mentally unsound that he had attempted suicide by hanging, but was rescued in the nick of time. They maintained that the resultant shock of the suicide attempt had left his head permanently tilted to one side. It was in reality a paralyzed eye muscle, which caused him to unconsciously tilt his head to compensate for the weakness of his eye muscle. Another president that had peculiar vision problems was Abraham Lincoln. He recorded in his diary that after the victory in the presidential election of 1860, he had been celebrating and working all day long. This was the culmination of the campaign, and he soon retired to his room for some rest. Upon lying on his bed, he noticed that as he looked into the mirror, he saw two images of himself. One image that was clear and distinct, and the other was pale and blurry. He immediately called out to his wife and explained what he had seen. She feared that he had seen an omen and that it meant he would be elected for 2 terms, but he would not live to see the end of the second term. Well, was it an omen? What did Lincoln really see? No one will ever be sure, but a plausible explanation can be offered upon examination of his medical records. It seems that Lincoln had a great difference in the power of his 2 eyes. This means that for a certain distance he perhaps could see clearly with one eye and not so clearly with the other. He also had a condition known as hyperphoria. This meant that as his eyes were stressed and as they got tired, they would tend to drift apart. So given a situation with a very tired, newly elected president after months of campaigning, he went to his room to totally relax. As he lay on the bed, his 2 eyes drifted apart, and for a split second, he actually saw double or 2 images. Now, due to the difference in power between his 2 eyes, one image would be clear, while the other would be blurry. This would be a possible explanation for the old story that Lincoln had foretold his death. It can be said that some of the presidents were nearsighted and some were farsighted. This could describe their political philosophies as well as their need for glasses. So the next time you feel that your vision problems have made things tough for you, remember, it could be worse. You could be president.